In the shadow of the Acropolis, the air was thick with anticipation. The year was 507 BC, and the citizens of Athens had gathered in the Nix, a large auditorium carved into the hillside. The assembly was tense. Whispers of rebellion and the clamor for change filled the air. At the center stood Cleisthenes, a determined leader with a vision. As he raised his voice, declaring the inception of demokratia, or rule by the people, a ripple of hope spread through the crowd. In that electrifying moment, democracy was born, setting the stage for a new era in governance. Athens, one of the most influential city-states of ancient Greece, was a beacon of cultural, intellectual, and political innovation. Known for its philosophers, artists, and playwrights, Athens also faced significant challenges. The city-state was marked by deep social divides and political strife, where power was concentrated in the hands of a few aristocratic families, leaving the majority of the population disenfranchised. This caused by aristocrats whose wealth and lineage dictated their authority. This oligarchic system excluded the common people, or demos, from meaningful participation in governance. The resulting social tensions were palpable, as the gap between the wealthy elite and the struggling masses grew wider. Economic distress was a significant catalyst for change. Many Athenian farmers fell into debt, often leading to their enslavement or the loss of their lands to wealthy creditors. This widespread suffering and dissatisfaction among the lower classes created an urgent demand for reform. The call for change was not merely about economic relief, it was also about securing a voice and representation in the political arena. Amidst this turmoil, a few visionary leaders began to emerge. A poet, who was appointed archon or chief magistrate in 594 BC. Solon's reforms aimed to alleviate the economic plight of the poor and reduce the power of the aristocracy. Solon's measures included the seisachthia, or shaking off of burdens, which cancelled existing debts and liberated those who had been enslaved due to debt. Additionally, he restructured the political framework by establishing the Council of 400, which allowed for greater representation of the common people. Though Solon's reforms were crucial, they were not sufficient to establish a fully democratic system, and the struggle for power continued. The momentum for democracy gained further strength under the leadership of Cleisthenes. Born into an aristocratic family, Cleisthenes recognized that the only way to stabilize Athens and ensure its prosperity was through more radical reforms. In 507 BC, he introduced a series of measures that would dismantle the old power structures and lay the foundation for democracy. Cleisthenes' most significant innovation was the reorganization of the Athenian population into 10 tribes based on their place of residence rather than their familial ties. This reorganization diluted the influence of powerful aristocratic families and promoted a sense of unity and common identity among the citizens. Each tribe contributed members to the newly established Council of 500, or boule, ensuring broader representation. The boule was responsible for preparing the agenda for the assembly, or ekklesia, which was the heart of Athenian democracy. The assembly was open to all male citizens over the age of 18, allowing them to participate directly in the decision-making process. The citizens gathered regularly to debate and vote on laws, policies, and important state matters, embodying the principle of direct democracy. Another critical aspect of Cleisthenes' reforms was the practice of ostracism. This process allowed the assembly to vote to exile a citizen who was perceived as a threat to the state for a period of 10 years. Ostracism was a safeguard against the rise of potential tyrants and ensured that power remained distributed among the people. The impact of these reforms extended beyond the immediate political sphere. The democratic system encouraged open debate, critical thinking, and the exchange of ideas, which contributed to the flourishing of Athenian culture and intellectual life. Philosophers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle thrived in this environment, exploring concepts of justice, governance, and human nature that continue to influence contemporary thought. Despite its many achievements, Athenian democracy was not without its flaws and limitations. Participation was restricted to male citizens, excluding women, slaves, and foreigners from the political process. This narrow definition of citizenship meant that only a fraction of the population enjoyed the rights and privileges of democracy. Furthermore, the direct nature of Athenian democracy, while innovative, also posed challenges. The assembly's decisions were sometimes swayed by persuasive orators and demagogues, leading to impulsive and sometimes detrimental actions. Nevertheless, the principles and structures established in Athens laid the groundwork for future democratic systems. The birth of democracy in ancient Athens was a remarkable and transformative moment in history. It represented a radical departure from the oligarchic and tyrannical systems that had dominated the ancient world. The Athenian experiment in self-governance demonstrated the potential of collective decision-making and the value of giving a voice to the people. The implementation of democratic practices in ancient Athens marked a significant shift in the political landscape and set the stage for the development of democratic governance. Central to this transformation were three key institutions: the Assembly, the Council of 500, and the practice of ostracism. The Assembly, or Ecclesia, was the cornerstone of Athenian democracy. It was an open forum where all male citizens over the age of 18 could participate directly in the governance of the city-state. The Assembly met regularly, about 40 times a year, on the Nix Hill west of the Acropolis. Here, citizens gathered to debate and vote on a wide range of issues, including laws, foreign policy, and military matters. The process was highly participatory and encouraged active engagement from the citizenry. Decisions in the assembly were made by majority vote, ensuring that the voice of the people guided the policies of Athens. This direct form of democracy allowed for a broad representation of opinions and fostered a sense of collective responsibility and civic duty among the Athenians. Complementing the assembly was the Council of 500, or Boule. This council was responsible for the day-to-day administration and preparation of issues to be discussed in the assembly. The Boule was composed of 500 members, with 50 representatives chosen by lot from each of the 10 tribes created by Cleisthenes. This random selection process was designed to prevent corruption and ensure that a diverse cross-section of citizens could participate in governance. Another unique democratic practice in Athens was ostracism. This process allowed the assembly to exile a citizen who was perceived as a threat to the state for a period of 10 years. Each year, during a special meeting of the assembly, citizens could vote on whether to hold an ostracism. If the decision was affirmative, they would inscribe the name of the person they wished to ostracize on a pottery shard, known as an ostrakon. If a sufficient number of votes were cast against an individual, that person was required to leave Athens, effectively neutralizing any potential threat to the democratic order. Ostracism served as a safeguard against tyranny and concentrated power, ensuring that no single individual could dominate the political landscape. It was a tool for maintaining the balance of power and protecting the democratic system from internal threats. The birth of democracy in Athens had a profound and lasting impact on future political systems and the development of modern governance. While Athenian democracy was limited to free male citizens, excluding women, slaves, and foreigners, its core ideas influenced subsequent political thought. The concept of citizens having a direct say in their government inspired later democratic movements and the development of representative democracies. Modern democratic systems, such as those in the United States, Canada, and various European countries, draw heavily on the Athenian model. The idea of a legislative body similar to the assembly and the notion of checks and balances within government structures can be traced back to ancient Athens. Furthermore, the emphasis on rule by the people and the protection of individual rights remain central tenets of contemporary democratic governance. The Athenian experiment in democracy demonstrated the power of collective decision-making and the importance of involving citizens in the political process. It highlighted the potential for a society to govern itself through rational debate, consensus, and shared responsibility. Today, the legacy of Athenian democracy continues to inform and inspire efforts to create more inclusive, participatory, and equitable political systems worldwide.